Get out of my life, right in front of all her friends. On Monday, I handed her a letter that made her sink into her chair. Hello, I'm Ashley Thompson, 65 years old. I've spent my life being a devoted mother, a caring mother-in-law, and a loving grandmother. But that night proved how little any of that mattered to Victoria. The sharp crack of porcelain on hardwood still echoes in my mind. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward me, some shocked, some embarrassed, as the elegant dinner party froze. My son Robert only whispered, "Mom, please," never once asking his wife to stop. Food splattered across my beige slacks while Victoria glared, her perfectly styled face twisted with disdain. This wasn't the first time she'd shown her feelings, but it was the most public. "Ashley, maybe you should go," she said sweetly, as if she cared. "We don't want you to get upset. I've never had episodes, no matter what she's told people." But Victoria spent years painting me as unstable and intrusive, and Robert, the boy I raised alone after his father passed, believed her. As I gathered my purse, I glimpsed my grandchildren at the top of the stairs. 7-year-old Emma and 5-year-old Lucas watched their grandmother be sent away like an unwelcome guest. What lesson about family were they learning? Driving home through tears, I thought of the day Robert first brought Victoria over. She was charming then, laughing at my stories, complimenting my home. Slowly, the invitation stopped. Little remarks became rules about when I could see the kids. Always too busy, always family time without in-laws. I pulled into the driveway of the small house where I'd raised Robert, working 2 jobs so he'd never go without. Now he lived in a sprawling suburban home with a wife who despised me for reasons I couldn't fathom. Inside, still in my stained clothes, I let the tears fall. A text buzzed. "Mom, sorry about tonight. She's just stressed. Give her space." Space. That's all I'd been giving them, until I was nearly a stranger to my own grandchildren. In the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back, shoulders slumped, eyes rimmed red. When had I started believing I deserved this? That night I dreamed of speaking up, of telling Victoria exactly what I thought, of reminding Robert of every sacrifice I'd made. But morning brought silence and the same ache. My best friend Martha had warned me for years. "Ashley, enough is enough," she said firmly when I called. "When will you stand up for yourself?" "What can I do?" I whispered. "If I confront her, she'll just keep the kids from me." "So you'll keep letting her treat you this way? Is that the plan?" I had no plan. I felt trapped, fight back and risk losing the little contact I had, or keep enduring the cruelty. What I didn't know then was that Monday would change everything. Because Monday, I would hand Victoria a letter. One that would reveal the truth. A letter that would make her fall back in shock and finally return the dignity I had surrendered piece by piece. The weekend crawled by. By Sunday, I couldn't stand the quiet. I climbed to the attic I'd ignored for years, thinking a little work might numb the pain. I had no idea that in those dusty boxes lay the very proof I needed, and the courage I thought I'd lost. The attic felt like a furnace, packed with decades of memories in dusty cardboard boxes. I began with Robert's childhood treasures, Little League trophies, science fair posters, photo albums marking every milestone. Had Victoria ever looked through these? Did she realize how many late nights I'd spent helping with projects? How many shifts I'd worked to pay college fees? Hours passed. My back ached, my clothes were streaked with dust, but the physical strain was a welcome distraction from the hurt still gnawing at me. That's when I noticed a large manila envelope wedged behind an old dresser. Its paper was yellowed, the flaps sealed with brittle tape. Inside lay documents I hadn't seen in years. Tax receipts, insurance forms, and the deed to Robert's house. I froze. My late husband James had bought that property shortly before his sudden passing, planning to renovate it for rental income. After his death, I kept it, quietly paying the taxes, unable to let go of one of his final decisions. When Robert married Victoria, they were saving for a home of their own. I still remember sliding a key across this very kitchen table and saying, "It's yours. Consider it an early inheritance, a wedding gift from your father and me." Robert was stunned. Victoria was thrilled. But I'd never signed the legal transfer. The deed still listed me as the owner. My heart pounded as I spread the papers across the attic floor. Could this really be true? According to every document, I still owned the house, the very one Victoria had thrown me out of only 2 days earlier. Did they know? Had they ever checked the records? Judging by Victoria's fury that night, I doubted it. I carried the folder downstairs and examined every page at the kitchen table. No mistake. In the fog of grief, I had simply handed them the keys and trusted we'd finish the paperwork someday. We never did. The phone rang, startling me. It was Sandra, a neighbor near Robert's place. "Ashley, I hope I'm not disturbing you," she said softly. "Not at all. Is something wrong? I wanted to check on you after the dinner party." Word travels. And there's something else. I'm not one to gossip, but I think you should know. I've seen Victoria with another man several times. They meet at the Maple Street Cafe. Yesterday I saw them in his car. They were kissing. The room tilted. Victoria, living in my house, was betraying my son. "Have you told Robert?" I managed. "No, I thought you should hear it first," Sandra replied. After she hung up, I sat motionless, surrounded by property deeds and this new devastating knowledge. Pieces clicked into place. Victoria's hostility, her relentless push to separate me from Robert and the grandchildren. Was she isolating him on purpose? I needed proof before saying a word, but one fact was undeniable. Those documents gave me leverage I'd never imagined. For the first time since that humiliating dinner, a spark of resolve flickered inside me. Not hope, not revenge. Something stronger. The certainty that I finally held the means to reclaim my dignity and protect my son. Monday was coming fast. Would I confront Victoria with the truth? Tell Robert what his wife was hiding? Or quietly assert my legal rights to the very house they called their own? As the sun dipped below the horizon, one truth settled over me. I was finished playing the victim in Victoria's story. From now on, I would write my own ending. That night I barely slept. My thoughts spun with possibilities and consequences. By morning, fatigue weighed heavy, but a strange clarity had taken root. I called Martha. "I need your advice," I said. An hour later, we sat at my kitchen table, a pot of strong coffee and the property papers between us. I told her everything. Sandra's revelation about Victoria's secret meetings, my suspicion that she'd been isolating Robert, and the discovery that the house legally belonged to me. Martha squeezed my hand. "I've waited 5 years for you to see her for who she really is." "I should have listened sooner," I admitted. "The question is, what will you do now?" She tapped the deed. "You finally have options." Real power. The word felt foreign. After years of shrinking to keep the peace, I'd almost forgotten what power was. "I could tell Robert about the affair," I whispered. "And if he doesn't believe you?" Martha cautioned. "Victoria's been shaping the narrative for years. He might think you're acting out of jealousy." She was right. Victoria had painted me as the overbearing mother who couldn't let go. Any accusation would be filtered through that lens. Or, Martha continued, "you could remind her who actually owns that house. You don't need to evict anyone, but she doesn't know that." I stared at my oldest friend. "You think I should warn her?" "I think you should let her realize the balance has shifted," Martha said, eyes sharp. "Let her feel what it's like when she's not in control." The idea was tempting, so tempting it startled me, but I wasn't after revenge. "I just want to protect my son and my grandchildren," I said quietly, "and maybe reclaim a little of what she's taken from me." "Then get proof," Martha advised. "Something Robert can't dismiss." After she left, I wrestled with the decision. Confronting Victoria made my stomach twist. She was confident, quick with cutting words, but she had never seen me fight back. That afternoon, I drove past the Maple Street Cafe Sandra had mentioned. Luck was with me. There they were, Victoria and a well-dressed man, their hands entwined across the table. I parked a discreet distance away and snapped photos with my phone. When they left, I followed from afar. On a quiet side street, she glanced around, then leaned in for a long, unmistakable kiss. They drove toward a small hotel. I didn't need to see more. By evening, I knew what had to be done. Not for payback, but because my son deserved the truth and I deserved respect. I sat at my desk and began to write. The letter. "Victoria, there are 3 things you need to understand. First, the house you and Robert live in, yes, the one you asked me to leave, legally remains in my name. I never transferred the deed. Copies of the documents are enclosed. Second, I am aware of your relationship with the man you meet on Maple Street and of your visits to the Parkview Hotel. I have photographic evidence. Third, I love my son and my grandchildren more than anything. I have kept quiet out of fear of losing them. That silence ends now. I do not wish to hurt Robert or devastate the children, but I will not allow you to continue undermining our family while living under my roof. You have a choice. End this relationship immediately and begin treating me with basic respect, or I will inform Robert of everything and initiate formal proceedings regarding the house. As I placed the letter in an envelope, my hands no longer trembled. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of dignity returning. Monday would bring a reckoning, one I was finally ready to face. I'm not asking to be your best friend. I'm demanding simple decency, for myself and for the sake of my son, who deserves better than betrayal. You have until Friday to decide. Ashley, I read the letter once more, feeling an unexpected calm. No anger, no pleading, just clear facts and firm boundaries. Inside the envelope lay copies of the property documents and the photographs I'd taken. Tomorrow, Monday, I would deliver it to Victoria. Tomorrow everything would change. For the first time in years, I slept without fear of rejection. Monday morning, dawn broke bright and clear, a sharp contrast to the storm inside me. I dressed with care, a simple blue dress Martha always said brought out my eyes, comfortable flats, a touch of makeup, not for Victoria, but for myself. The envelope waited on the kitchen counter, heavy with truth. It held proof of her affair and the deed that confirmed the house was legally mine. Robert would be at work. The children would be at school. Victoria usually spent Monday mornings at home before meeting friends. The timing was perfect. As I drove toward the house, my house, doubt whispered, what if this only made things worse? What if Robert blamed me for the messenger instead of the betrayal? No, I said aloud, gripping the wheel. I can't keep living like this. The lawn was immaculate, the garden beds perfectly arranged, Victoria's seasonal showcase of control. From the outside, it looked like a storybook home. I knew better now. I parked, took a steadying breath, and walked up the stone path. The envelope felt heavy in my hand. Face to face. Footsteps approached. The door opened. Victoria stood there in designer jeans and a crisp white blouse, every hair in place. Her expression slid from neutral to cold. Ashley, she said flatly, Robert's not home. I know. I came to see you, I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. An arched brow, no invitation. I thought I made it clear Friday that we needed space. You made a lot of things clear, I said. May I come in? This won't take long. After a beat, she stepped aside. 5 minutes. I have a busy day. I entered the living room, the same space where she'd humiliated me 3 nights earlier. The floor was spotless, but the memory of shattered porcelain still hung in the air. Well, she crossed her arms. What's so important? I held out the envelope. This is for you. Suspicion flickered as she opened it. Her eyes moved over the first page of my letter, widened slightly, then darted to the property deed. When she reached the photographs, her face drained of color. She sank into a chair, papers trembling in her hands. This is absurd, she stammered. These photos, this paperwork. The photos show exactly what they show, I said evenly, and the property records are current. I confirmed them yesterday. Her composure cracked. You had no right to spy on me, and you had no right to treat me the way you have, Seguier, I replied, calm but unyielding. To isolate my son, to limit my time with my grandchildren, to throw me out of my own house. Your house? She shot back, voice rising. This is art. Robert and you live here because I allowed it, I interrupted. I gave him the key as a wedding gift, but I never transferred ownership. An oversight on my part, one that now matters. Victoria shot to her feet, face flushed. This is blackmail. No, I said quietly. This is a boundary. This is me standing up for myself. You wouldn't dare tell Robert, she hissed. It would destroy him. Is that what you want? To hurt your precious son? I met her gaze without flinching. I don't want to hurt anyone. That's why I'm giving you a choice. End the affair and treat me with the basic respect any human being deserves, or face the consequences of your own actions. Victoria's eyes narrowed to slits. The room pulsed with silence. The balance of power unmistakably changed. For the first time in years, I felt taller than the walls around me. You think you've won, don't you? Victoria's voice shook with anger. You think you can show up with your so-called evidence and suddenly have power over me? This isn't about winning, I replied evenly. It's about truth. About my family, my son, my grandchildren, and my rightful place in their lives. Her hands trembled as she tossed the papers onto the coffee table. "Get out of my house." "My house," I corrected gently, turning toward the door. "You have until Friday to decide what happens next." I walked out without raising my voice, without losing control. For the first time in years, I'd simply spoken my truth and set my terms. From the car, I glanced back. Victoria stood at the window, her expression unreadable. Whether she ended the affair, agreed to my terms, or tried to call my bluff, the choice was no longer hers alone. I drove away lighter than I'd felt in years. I had reclaimed something essential, my voice. Tuesday evening. I thought I'd have until Friday before hearing from them. I was wrong. By Tuesday, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. First Victoria, then Robert, then Victoria again. I let every call go to voicemail. Victoria's message was sharp. "You've made a terrible mistake, Ashley. You have no idea what you've done." Robert's was confused and worried. "Mom, what's going on? Victoria says you threatened her. Please call me back." I took a steady breath and dialed my son. "Robert, we need to talk in person," I said. "Mom, whatever is happening, can't you just apologize?" "She's really upset." Something inside me hardened. "No, Robert. Not this time. This is important. Can you meet me at Riverside Park in an hour?" A pause. "All right, but please, let's keep it peaceful." The park. The park was quiet in the fading light, the river moving with calm inevitability. Robert arrived looking tired, his tie loose, hair mussed, an old nervous habit. "Mom," he said, sitting beside me, "Victoria says you're threatening to evict us?" I met his eyes. "Robert, there are things you need to know. Things I should have told you sooner." Carefully, I explained the truth about the house, how the deed had remained in my name all these years through oversight, not intention. He looked startled but not angry. "Why didn't you say something before? Honestly, I forgot. After giving you the key, in my mind, it was already your home. I only discovered the paperwork while cleaning the attic this weekend." He exhaled. "We can fix that. I'll call our lawyer tomorrow and transfer the deed properly." I took another breath. "There's more." His face tightened. "Mom, if this is about the dinner party..." "Robert, I said softly, "Victoria is seeing someone else." He went pale. "What?" "I wouldn't tell you if I weren't certain." I showed him the photos. Victoria at the cafe, the kiss by the car, the visit to the hotel. With each image, his expression collapsed further. "No," he whispered, "this can't be." "I'm sorry," I said, feeling his pain like my own. "But you deserve the truth." He stood, pacing. "How long have you known?" "Since Sunday. A neighbor told me first, and I confirmed it myself." Robert dragged a hand through his hair. "And the eviction threat, was that real, or just to scare her?" "I would never put you or the children on the street," I said firmly. But Victoria didn't know that. I needed her to understand that things had to change, that I would no longer be treated like a stranger in my own family. He stared out at the steady river for a long time. "All these years," he said finally, "she told me you were trying to come between us, that you were clingy, that your feelings were always hurt because you couldn't accept that I had my own life." My throat tightened. "And you believed her?" "She's my wife," he said, then paused, the word heavy. "I thought she was protecting us." I nodded, tears stinging. "I tried so hard, Robert." I stepped back. I made myself small. I accepted the scraps of time she allowed me with you and the children, all to keep the peace. He turned toward me, eyes rimmed red. "I should have seen it," he whispered. "I should have stood up for you," Robert said quietly. "We both made mistakes," I answered. "But it's not too late to make things right." He looked suddenly young again, like the boy who had once faced his father's passing. "What am I supposed to do?" "The kids. You'll take time to think," I said gently. "Decide what's best for you, Emma and Lucas. Whatever you choose, I'll support you. She'll say you're lying, that you've always been jealous." "I know," I admitted. "That's why I made copies of everything. Photos, property documents. She can deny it, but the truth doesn't change." Robert sank back onto the bench, shoulders heavy. "I need to confront her." "Do you want me there?" He considered, then shook his head. "No, this is between me and Victoria." He hesitated, voice low. "Afterward, I might need a place to stay with the kids." "You'll always have a place with me," I said, my heart aching for his pain, yet quietly hopeful. As dusk settled over the park, we sat in silence, watching the steady flow of the river. For the first time in years, we were united, mother and son on the same side, ready to face the truth together. 6 months later, A warm Saturday morning filled my kitchen with sunlight and the sweet scent of pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, a weekend tradition newly reborn. Upstairs came the quick patter of small feet and cheerful whispers. "Grammy, is breakfast ready?" Emma called down. "Almost, sweetheart." "Bring your dad," I answered, smiling at the sound of her voice. This was my house, now alive with more laughter and love than it had known in decades. So much had changed since the day I handed Victoria that letter. Their confrontation, Robert later told me, was explosive. Victoria denied everything at first, then turned to blame. Robert's supposed distance, my influence, even society's expectations. But confronted with undeniable evidence, her defenses crumbled. The woman who once seemed untouchable proved fragile, built on secrets and lies. Robert and the children moved in with me the very next day, carrying only a few hastily packed suitcases. Victoria threatened lawsuits, custody battles, even hinted at dramatic scenes. But Robert's lawyer, at my urging, his lawyer, not mine, presented the property records and the evidence of infidelity. Her position weakened, and the divorce proceeded. It wasn't easy, especially for the children. 7-year-old Emma understood enough to know her mother had hurt her father. 5-year-old Lucas simply knew his world had changed. I did my best to be their constant, to keep our home a refuge. Robert appeared in the doorway now, a child holding each hand. "Good morning, Mom." "Something smells amazing." "Dinosaur pancakes," Lucas announced, eyes shining. I flipped a golden triceratops onto a plate. "Who wants the first one?" Me, they chorused, scrambling onto chairs. As I served breakfast, I felt an overwhelming gratitude. It wasn't the life I had imagined, and it certainly hadn't come without pain, but it was real, and it was ours. Robert caught my eye over the children's heads, his smile warm and unguarded. "Thanks for everything, Mom. I don't know how we would have made it without you." "That's what family does," I said softly. "We show up for each other." Later, while Robert helped the kids get dressed, I checked my email. Among the usual messages was one that made my heart skip. Confirmation that the property transfer was complete. I closed the laptop and breathed in the quiet joy of the moment. Our family had weathered betrayal and heartbreak and come out stronger, together. I had officially signed over the house, my house, to Robert. It was a decision I reached after months of quiet reflection. The walls carried too many memories of betrayal. And more importantly, I wanted Robert to have a fresh start. A home that belonged entirely to him, free from my history and Victoria's shadow. The sale closed yesterday. Robert didn't know yet. I planned to tell him today, to place the deed in his hands and let him build a life that was truly his own. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. Robert appeared in the hallway, eyebrows lifted. "Are we expecting someone?" I shook my head and opened the door. Victoria stood on the porch. Gone was the polished, commanding woman who once shattered a plate at my feet. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face bare, her clothes plain. "Ashley," she said softly, "may I come in?" I hesitated, every protective instinct on alert. "Please," she added, "just for a minute. I need to say something." Behind me, I heard Robert's sharp intake of breath. "Mom, it's okay," he said. "Let her in." The apology. Victoria stepped into the hallway, eyes darting between us. "I won't stay long," she began, voice trembling. "I came to apologize. Of all the scenarios I'd imagined, this wasn't one of them. These past months, after the divorce, after losing custody, I've had a lot of time to think. I'm in therapy now, trying to understand why I did what I did." Her gaze dropped. "I was insecure, jealous of the bond between you and Robert. I told myself you were controlling our lives, when I was the one doing the controlling." She turned to me. "Ashley, I treated you terribly. I isolated you. I said things I can't take back. I'm truly sorry." I searched her face for any trace of manipulation, but found only sincerity, perhaps a side of Victoria I had never known. "Thank you," I said quietly. "It means a lot to hear that." "The children are upstairs," Robert said after a pause. "They're almost ready for the park. Would you like to see them?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Very much." As Victoria climbed the stairs, Robert looked at me. "Do you think she means it?" I considered, then nodded. "Yes, people can change. Sometimes they just need a wake-up call." A gift returned. Later, after a morning at the park and a peaceful afternoon nap for the children, I showed Robert the property transfer documents. "Mom, I can't accept this," he said, stunned. "You can, and you will," I replied gently but firmly. "It's time for you and the kids to have a home that's truly yours." His voice thickened. I don't deserve you. You deserve every good thing, Robert, I said, embracing him. You always have. A quiet sunset. That evening I sat on the porch watching the sky turn gold and crimson. I thought of the night Victoria shattered a plate, of the courage it took to write that first letter, and of the long months of uncertainty that followed. I had never wanted revenge. I wanted what every person deserves: respect, love, and a place in the family I helped build. By standing up for myself, I regained my dignity and helped my son see a truth he had been blind to for far too long. The future remains unwritten. Robert and the children will soon move into their own home. Victoria will always be part of their lives, and healing will take time. But my family, the real family, has pieced itself back together, stronger at the broken places. Call to action. Now I'm curious about you. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Have you faced something similar in your own family? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're here, check out the 2 stories on screen, community favorites that are sure to surprise you.